Hello everyone, my name is Josh Maurer. I'm an instructor here at Broken Plow, and today we're going to be going over the Scheidelhau, or the parried. Now, this is one of the hidden strikes within the KDF system, and its purpose is to defeat the guard of Alber, or full. So for those of you who don't remember, Alber, the guard is low, point is towards the ground, and it's threatening with an edge. It could be the traditional center Alber that I have here, or it could be off to the side, as we call a barrier guard, or it could be back behind, what's called a tail guard, or whatever guard they want to have down here. The point is, the point's away, and the edge is threatening. And Scheidelhau is meant to defeat that. Now, Scheidelhau is a very shallow strike. It's an Oberhau. It's only really meant to go in an inch into the head and no further. Unlike with cutting to long point, where we imagine that we're cutting through the head and ending up around here in the neck, chest area, or even the face with a point. Or when we cut with a normal Oberhau, we're going to cut through the entire body. When we're cutting this Scheidelhau, we are only going an inch into the head. If you've ever taken Kendo, this is very similar to a shomen, which is a very basic strike in Kendo. One of the first basic strikes you learn that's actually applicable to sparring situations in Kendo. The reason why a Scheidelhau works is it takes advantage of geometry. So, what is the Scheidelhau actually doing? So let's say we were at our go range, we stepped in, because we were about to do a master strike, which means we have to be in range of our target, as opposed to that distance when we do a cutting to long point. So, we stepped in, we're in range, and we're going to step offline, like with everything. You can step forward, but with everything we want to try and step offline. Step offline and cut for full extension, but we only want to hit the last 6 inches of the blade. All right, we want to only hit that much. So then when we get to here, rather than taking this a little bit bigger step, a normal step, and cutting the sweet spot, we're going to take a little bit of a shallower step when we step out, so that we only hit those last 6 inches. And there's a big reason why, and it's what happens afterwards. Now, the reason why this works, remember the context of the Zettel and of the glosses. We're fighting against somebody with a sharp, and we have a sharp, and we don't have any armor. Okay? At most, we're wearing gambesons, leather gloves, and leather boots. We're not going to have anything protecting our heads. The gameson will protect our body, except against thrusts, and if they're really good at cutting, they have a really sharp blade. So, in essence, we're kind of unarmored. All right? It's called blossfechten. Now, because it's a sharp blade, he doesn't want to get cut. All right? He's not thinking about, oh, I want to avoid a double, or I don't want to get an afterblow. I don't want to get cut. That's what he's thinking. So he has two options when we cut him with a Scheidelhau. When we come here to cut in, he has two options. Either get out of the way, or use his sword to intercept our strike. So the basic parry to a Scheidelhau from Alber is to come up into what's called crown. Okay? So if you see this kind of looks like I have a crown, that's why it's called crown, German word for crown. So coming up from Alber to crown. The blade, our Scheidelhau, impacts that. Right? Probably about here. Obviously now we can't strike our target, so we move on to the next decision we have to make. And the next decision we make is really only one that we really need to make at the situation. If they counter with crumb, then we're going to outside wind and thrust into the bottom. Now, we have to outside wind, we can't inside wind. There are a few reasons to this. Number one, when we cut in with the Scheidelhau or the prawn, our weak is on their strong. We're on their hilt, right? There's no more strong of leverage that they can have than at that moment, okay? Which means we can't do an inside wind. Inside wind means that we're trying to take control of center. We can't control center if we don't have leverage. If we try to wind, either we're gonna wind and our point is going to end up facing out from our point. So, whereas we were right here on target, the moment we go to outside wind, I'm not gonna hit him. I'm not even gonna slice him. So an inside wind is already gonna put our point offline from our target. Number two was that the moment we wind, it's already off target and we have to realign ourselves, which we can't do because we don't have leverage and we can't control center. And what they'll do is just counter wind to us, take center and stab us in the chest. Not great, okay? So we can't control center because we don't have leverage, and we can't keep our target because the moment we wind that way, our target's off. So inside wind is not an option. Outside wind, on the other hand, is possible. Normally it wouldn't if we're facing point to point, right? If they're a long point, we're a long point, or plow and plow, or ox and ox, or whatever, they're threatening with the point. We can't do an outside wind because we're giving up the center to them to double behind their blade to get in. The only real way that we can do that is if they're not worried about center anymore, or they're taking themselves out of center for some reason. For instance, doubling, right? Dupliering, right? It's an outside wind. We come to the crossed swords, they're pressing hard on my blade because they have either better leverage, or it's even and they're just way stronger than me. And I cannot take center from them, and they have hard pressure. So I come up, put my hilt in the way of their edge, and I use my sweet spot with my snap that I have, and their pressure to cut them across in the mouth. Well, this outside wind is not going to be about cutting, it's going to be about thrusting, and it's because of the distance, okay? When we come to here, and they defend, and we wind, our point can get in front. And that's why, when I was talking about Scheidelhau, we target with the last 6 inches and not the sweet spot, right? This is not normal overhau. For one basic reason, but for 2 outcomes that could happen if we do it wrong. If we do it in range, and we actually strike with the sweet spot, if the other person is inexperienced, drunk, or in a tournament, right, and they're not worried about sharps, for any of those 3 reasons, they're not worried about the sharp, because either it's not there or they're too stupid to realize it is. They could come up with their point before you come in and stab you. The last thing you need to do is die with them, right? So that when you come in, when you strike with the last 6 inches, when they come up and they go for your lower target, you're too far away for them to hit, right? And that's because these lower targets are further away than their head is to yours, right? Things out, this is the furthest your sword can reach, right? The head is a lot closer to the sword than this torso area is, which is probably where they're going to try and aim when they come up with that point. So that's why we aim with this last bit of the blade, so that we don't get hit and we hit them. The other outcome that could happen, if they go to parry and we're too deep, because we try and hit the sweet spot, if we're too deep, they parry with that cron and we go to outside wind, our point's behind them. We can now no longer thrust them, okay? So by going too deep, we defeat our ability to actually come up with a follow-up strike, okay? Can we get this in and try to do a slice behind? Yeah, but there's not a lot of force behind that. If you try it at home and you try and do a slice this way with a short edge, pulling in towards yourself, it's not going to feel very strong, it's not going to feel very good. It's because it isn't. It's not going to be as good of a strike, and you don't really want to do that one. So, we're now attacking at the appropriate distance. tightens with last stitches, and they parried us up here with that crumb. So now we outside wind to get our point down, and we want it pointed down into their chest, okay? We want it right there into the chest. Because when they're parrying us, the blade's outside here, they have only two ways to get our blade out. Up or out, okay? So either this way, and technically this way, I just kind of group into up. It kind of has a point where it's like they're going more out than up, and they're going more up than out. But either way, they have two ways to go, up or out. If they go out, that's fine for us. We can still get this. We don't have to leave it, okay? We don't have to leave this outside bind. You get it. If they push us out, we just keep following with them, and we try and drive that point home, okay? We just keep circling around them, because eventually we're going to get them if they keep doing that, because they're not as quick turning that way as we are going around them. If they go up, that's going to push our point out, right? If they go that way with their cron, our point is going to have a point where we can't actually hit them anymore, okay? The further we make the target deeper when we first initially strike, the more their hands have to move up to get us out, which is why I'm saying the target is here, not their face, not their neck, okay? It's too shallow, and the reason why we can't get their hands to move if they get us out. If they only have to move this far, what comes up next might not happen, okay? The more that they have to move opens up a window, right? From here to here, as opposed to from here to here, right? Now, there's a window now, right? They're not there anymore. So, cut in, they parry, you wind, they push you up. The next thing you do, their hands are way up there, come underneath their hands, and come back down in. And this time, aim for the clavicle, right? Aim for that spot right above the clavicle that we always like to hit, okay? Because we don't want to aim too low this time. This time we don't want to aim here, we want to aim up here. Because their hands are going to come down once they notice where our point's been replaced. Right? We've placed it somewhere else. We've mutated our point with our back hand down underneath their hands to come back in. Some people, when they come here and the hands get pushed up so high, they step back and come in. That's an option, but it takes time. Right? This takes time as opposed to that. Okay? It takes practice getting quick with your hands to be able to mutate the point like that, but it's way faster than coming back out and in so that that window doesn't close on you. Okay? When you get that point in, stabbed, and their point and their hands come down to stop you, all they're going to do is just stop here. Okay? They're not going to be able to come down with their hands anymore. And if they try to come down with an overhow, make sure you keep your hands up, right? So we're up here in this ox, right? As we head outside wind to our right ox, come around and come back in. I'm keeping my hands up. One, it keeps their hands from coming down. Two, if they came down with a strike, like an overhow, I have that hilt above me to protect myself, okay? I have that ox guard to protect me from them, okay? Now, let's talk about what happens when people don't do cron, okay? So this play that's in the manual, it's in the Zettel, well, what's in what they talk about in the gloss is someone defending in cron, because that's probably what short sharp swords and someone's reacting is probably going to do. But the other one is probably more, the one I'm going to show is probably one that's more likely to happen. Someone's down here in Alber waiting for you to do something. Because that's what Alber usually does. They're waiting for you to do something, bait you into something, and then use knock rising to defeat you, right? That's why you need to actually try and injure them and put them in peril and not take yourself out of the fight by going all the way through with the Scheidelhau, right? What most of the time you'll see is something like this. They'll go into a hanging guard and try and slide your point off to come around the other way with the cut. Okay? Now, the reason why Scheidelhau defeats this is that we don't go all the way through. We don't try to go all the way through to the long point, and we don't try to go all the way through with no full cut. Our hands stop here, right? As if we're going right to the head. So that when they try and slide us off, our point just goes here and stays here, because that's where we wanted to go in the first place. Our hands come here and stop when they parry us with that hanging guard, because that's where we wanted to go. So as they come around with that strike to strike us with an overhand, our hands are already here. As they come around, now we come with something else. We come with a hand press. Okay? So this is where you have to make decisions and realize what they're defending with. So they defended with Kron in the first example. And so we outside wound and came in with a point because they didn't have a point to keep us out, right? And we were able to get that outside wind. When they come up in Ox, it's very difficult to get an outside wind there. It's not something you want to do. It's not going to be very effective. But because we know that they can't really stay in a very effective guard, and that's one that they just shed with anyway, and they're going to come around with an overhand, as their hands come around, we come with the blade underneath their wrists, okay? And we come up and meet them with force. That's going to stop their hands from moving and coming down on us. From there, we can either come across and slice their hands, or coming here, we can step out to our left, or whatever side, if we're left, we're stepping out to our right, and we're going to turn it into an overschnitt, or an overslice. Something I may have talked about in the Zverkow discussion class, and unfortunately was not able to be recorded, so if you have any questions about that, you can talk to me or any other instructors about what exactly is an Handrücken to Overschnitt. Anyway, so if someone tries to defend in Hängen from Alber, we know that when we come with the Scheidelhau, the next thing that we're waiting for is them to shed us, and we're coming for their wrists. To hand press, either turn into an overschnitt or just come across with a slice, okay? Or we can turn that into wrestling if we want to, because they can't really go anywhere. It's a very bad position for them. They're completely open, right? They're here when that happens. So their whole body's open, they're in mid-strike. You may even catch them with their foot off the ground. It'll be bad news for them, okay? Now, the other one that usually happens is this, right? The ribbon cut. Something I've shown you guys before in our flow drills, the ribbon cut. The ribbon cut's a little bit odd, but if you come in with the Scheidelhau to that, they're gonna have to come up a little bit higher to hit your blade out of the way than they're used to. So they might miss, they might not. But if they go to hit your blade, it's the same type of deal that's gonna happen. Your hands are already up here, and their hands are gonna stay up here, okay? Your blade's gonna get knocked out of the way, like, you come here, they hit away with that ribbon cut. Now what happens with that ribbon cut? They're coming up, and they're coming around with that overhand on the other side. And that cutting action actually sets us up for that hand press to come in, right? The blade is already moved this way because of them. Boing, hand press. It's already there, okay? So you have to be able to recognize when someone's coming up with a hanging guard, whether they're trying to do a ribbon cut, or if they're trying to do Kron. More than likely, you'll see the other two because most people do that. You may see the third one with someone who does like an oh shit, right? Because you press them and they weren't really expecting it. And that usually happens when you step off line. If you step straight in, usually they have that ribbon cut, the hanging guard shed into a cut already timed up, because I've seen it so many times. When you step off line, that kind of sets them off, and they may just do Kron, and that might force them into actually protecting themselves. Again, the context is with sharp swords, right? This is all context with sharp swords. If we're talking about tournament, this is a less effective move. One, because the swords that they use in tournament are longer, usually by like 5 inches or more than an actual longsword. So you're not really dealing so much with swords as you are doing with short spears at that point. And that kind of throws off the geometry a bit, so that the Scheidelhau doesn't work as effectively as it would have in the past. With correctly sized swords that have 3-foot blades and hands that fit your hands, that doesn't happen. You have, these moves work with actual real sharp swords. The moment we bring in fetters and we use that as our testing base as whether or not this is an effective move or not, we're not doing the same thing that was done in the glosses and in the Zettel. So keep that in mind, that context matters, okay? The Scheidelhau, when you go to do it in a tournament, when you go to do it in sparring here, may not be that effective because people aren't worried about getting cut or thrusted, right? They're worried about points, or they're worried about getting hit or not getting hit. So keep that in mind about this. Still practice it, learn it, love it, but realize that some people are probably not going to react the way that you would expect them to as if it were sharp swords, okay? That being said, this has been our look at the Scheidelhau, and thank you guys for listening to this video. Again, I'm Josh Maurer, I'm an instructor here at Broken Plow, and thanks for watching.